Hey everyone, welcome to Surf Soon, a numerically rated Surfcraft review series. If you dig this episode, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get to the show. In this episode, I'll be reviewing a 7.6 A.P.E. by Anderson Surfboards. This is Scott Anderson and Kirk Putnam's version of the Edgeboard. The Edgeboard was originated by George Greenough to allow him to surf less than perfect waves away from crowds. The design is a board concept, so when on plane there's less surface area. To get a better understanding, let's just get a closer look. Like a displacement hull, almost all the rockers in the nose. Overall, a pretty flat board, aimed more for speed over performance. As far as the rails, there are two levels. The top level is very hullish, with a pinch rail, and the bottom is a hard edge for most of the perimeter. This allows paddling on 22.5 inches, but planing on 18. Bottom has a single concave, to slightly wider and deeper single concave, to a double concave before the fin, and then flat out the tail. All right, so first thoughts. This is not my first rodeo with an Edgeboard. I've done it before. I've had a couple, but I've never had anything above the size 7 foot. This is a 7.6, so I wanted to see what a longer outline, and actually what they did was they made the outline a little narrower, almost like kind of more eggish. And I wanted to see what that was all about. So let's go to categories. So for a maneuver, I gave it a 7. And that might surprise some of you, but you have to understand that this is a displacement hull style rocker with a more complex, not convex bottom, okay? Plus what you're doing is you're giving it a flexfin, which is what I ran it with, and we'll talk about that later. But what it does is it gives projection off the tail, just like a hull, and it does help with speed, everything that's going on the second half of this board on the bottom part. But I really did feel that I had the baby turns, and I think that had a lot to do with the fact that there wasn't a lot of tail rocker at all, and also the fin. Could I have changed it out and did something different? Absolutely. But this is the fin that was given with this board, so I wanted to try it as traditional as I could. Okay, so drive, I gave it an 8. Projection off turns, absolutely. But after that, trying to find that sweet spot of the wave, it just kind of went past it. And including you have to kind of baby turns a little bit with these, from what I found. I just had a hard time kind of giving it drive. Now, these things are meant to surf less than great waves. Waves that maybe have a lot of deep spots, waves that maybe have a lot of chop. So it does give you drive as far as, you know, in crappy waves. That definitely happens. But in cleaner waves, I think you're better off with a displacement hull. I did not find this fourth gear that people are talking about, and maybe I didn't give it enough time, but I can usually find this stuff pretty instantly. Couldn't find it with this, but it was still super fun. Drivey at times, just not drivey all the time. Trim, gave it an 8.75. This is where this thing excels. Similar to other boards that I've done, the Haley pin, the Jive lifter, where the bottom contours really help the flow of water. This thing trims very well, connects sections very well, and connects sections when, as I said before in drive, in crappy surf, which is something that sometimes a displacement hull doesn't do well. Sometimes you lose your drive or your trim in your basic egg. This definitely helps a lot more, especially with having, you know, this whole less area between the top and the bottom of the board. You know, less is more in this particular situation. Volume distribution duck dive, I gave it an 8. The outline's really cool. It's interesting because you're literally stacking a board on top of a board. So technically, you know, you would think the top of the board, if it didn't have the bottom of the board, it would probably be about 2 1/4 wide. But then you have this other board that's underneath it that has a completely different bottom contour. So it definitely feels thick when you're paddling it, but when you're actually up on plane, it feels really small. And it feels really fun in that aspect. And I love how, you know, the board rises out of the water, almost like a boat when a boat gets up to plane. It's very similar to that. So duck dive though, duck dive's pretty good. Again, a lot of thickness to it, but I think because of the rails, it just allows it to be able to happen, especially for a 7.6. And I like it how these rails you can almost grip and really hold on to. I know that wasn't really what George was thinking, but I think it works. So paddling, I give it a 9. Efficiency is a great word to describe how this paddles. It just planes through water so easily. And it's kind of rad because even on those crazy offshore days in Jersey and New York and everywhere else where it's blowing so hard, but you can feel the wind just going right underneath this and it doesn't really affect it. And that's really nice about these, is that they paddle beautiful in kind of, and to me, crappy waves are blowing 30 miles an hour in your face and it's hard to get into. This really efficiently paddles through that. And for that, these things are really fun. So special moments, 8.5. Definitely got me into waves that I didn't think that I was gonna get into. Let me take off a little bit late, which was nice. I felt really comfortable when it was a little bigger, and also it surfed pretty well in smaller stuff. I think that there's a really good concept and there's a lot of science, well not science, but going into this design, and I think that it really works just as long as you're okay with possibly not maneuvering as well as you would a normal egg. This thing is just made to go down the line fast. You want to do a cool hipster style, you know, high line. This thing will do that, no problem. It will make bad waves fun, and that is special right there. So as far as fins, I went with the George Greenough High Speed Series 9.25. As you can see, it's a very tapered, thin outline. Not a lot of flex, but a little bit of flex. I got to admit it, I feel like I should have tried maybe more of a skip fry template. I've had a lot of people tell me that the power blades are really awesome. They're just really hard to get. I would love to know what you guys are running in these, just out of curiosity. There's a lot of different fin configurations that you could do with these, and I'd be interested to know what you guys are running. I ran it kind of more in the middle. I feel like if I would have ran it too far forward, it would feel too hully and maybe wash out a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of what I went with. So final thoughts on this board. It's very interesting to me, all of the different ways that you can use this edge style bottom contour on all types of different things. I've seen it on little fishes, I've seen it on mini sim and stuff, I've seen it on longboards. Andrini states that he loves his longboards with this edge style. So to try this in a longer length, I didn't love it, but I'm willing to try other stuff. I do think that it's not a beginner style board because it is kind of almost a hull. It has barely any tail rocker. It does have a good amount of nose rocker to keep you from nose diving, but all in all, if you surf a lot and you surf kind of crappy waves every once in a while, this is a great thing to have in your quiver, and that's my thoughts on them. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you like this episode, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel free to share, comment, and all that good stuff. Until next time, there are always waves on the way, so hang tight, surf soon.